ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
There are a lot of times that you can't explain things. I mean, sometimes you'll see a kid from a great family, and he ends up, a mess. You can't explain it. And then, inexplicably, you'll see a kid from a terrible background, and he ends up just being a strong, resilient kid. His brothers and sisters may struggle, and he rises above it. I mean, sometimes you can't explain everything. I mean, people are amazing. People can do amazing things based on fear and drive and motivation and, who knows, sometimes just luck. But there's one thing that you can always explain, okay? And I just saw the second time I've seen a story like this in the last couple months. Everybody's like, how did it happen? I don't understand. It's crazy. It's cray-cray. How do you explain it? The answer to the next story is always the same thing. They had help on the inside. Here's the latest story about somebody escaping from prison. The top Mexican drug lord, Joaquin Guzman, considered the world's richest and most powerful drug trafficker, he just escaped from prison. He just escaped from a prison in Mexico. Oh, man, he is crafty. Did he jump into a laundry basket? Did he? The answer is always the same, just like the two guys in the Northeast that escaped. They had help from the inside. Can we stop always wondering? I can't figure out. I read the story here, and before I read the story, Vince handed it to me, and I'm like, yeah, somebody on the inside helped them. Here's the story. Widely considered the world's richest and most powerful drug trafficker, he slipped down a shaft from his prison shower cell and disappeared into a sophisticated mile-long tunnel with ventilation, lighting, digging equipment, a motorcycle. Yeah. He didn't jump into a laundry basket, his feet dangling, thrown into the back of a truck, and he had help from the inside. That's how a drug king always escapes from prison. Sheesh. Good to have you in today. Great to have you in, actually. Sunny 73. I don't know if they're going to get the home run derby in tonight. Apparently, boy, Midwest has gotten pounded with rain, spring and summer, just pounded by it. One of my favorite things, a lot of people complain about life, all right? And I'm not talking about getting lucky and being successful for 1 or 2 years or 3 or 4. If you want to be habitually successful, I've never seen an exception to what I'm about to say, ever, not one. In sports or in life or in business, I've never seen an exception to what I'm going to say. If you are successful for 20 years, 10 years, for a long extended period of time, it's always the same reason. You have really good habits. Success is about habits. It's not about your family money. It's about life habits. And successful businesses and sports teams and people all have the same life habits. They don't waste time. They celebrate rarely. They work hard daily. They always seek value. They pay attention to details. I'm looking at this. Since 1995, the first full season in the wild card era, 88 of 123 teams in first at this point in the All-Star break make the playoffs. And they name the teams. And there's only one team here that we see every single year, the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, once again, the St. Louis Cardinals, time efficient, celebrate rarely, head down, work hard, always seeking value, paying attention to details. Once again, the St. Louis Cardinals are the class of their division. Bob Costas, a St. Louis resident, at least part of the time, was on Mike Lupica's show earlier this week and talked about why the Cardinals once again are great.
They do every little thing right. They don't make fundamental mistakes. They take the extra base in what has now become more and more a small ball type of game. They can lay down the sacrifice bunt. Their farm system just keeps producing terrific arm after terrific arm.
I find it impossible, if not like, you have to completely respect what the St. Louis Cardinals do. They are the San Antonio Spurs of the NBA. But in the NBA, let's be honest, a lot of it's based on your star. You give Tim Duncan to almost any franchise, they're going to be good. Baseball's different. Your great arms in baseball almost never last. Players, free agents move often. You can't just go to high school and get a star or 1 year of college. It's all about developing in baseball. Baseball's hard to win habitually. Even the San Francisco Giants, perennially excellent, kind of go up, down, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. It's hard in baseball. You just can't draft a LeBron. There's not one position in baseball like football, quarterback, where you're good at it. Andrew Luck and the Colts, they're going to be good for 10 years. Baseball's hard. You have a lot of arm injuries, so if you do get a Verlander, you do get an ace, they get hurt often. Farm systems. It takes years to draft a guy, and then he produces regularly in the bigs. Bryce Harper is an exception, and he's third year in. So, St. Louis Cardinals, once again, hats off. You do it right. The home run derbies tonight, I've often said that what you like, I like. And it's almost constant. Virtually, I love the NFL, so do you. I like major college football. I see the ratings, so do you. I like major golf events. I like the World Cup, men's and women's. I like the NBA playoffs. Everything I like, you like. I'll watch hockey, but randomly. Boxing, hit and miss. Everything you don't really care for on a daily basis, I'm the same way. The two exceptions are the Pro Bowl, which I think is unwatchable and you love. I've never watched the Pro Bowl. I think it's awful. I think it's embarrassing. If I ran the NFL, I'd cancel it. I would literally cancel it. The second thing that America loves, I don't get, is the home run derby. If they can get it in tonight through the weather, it gets a big fat rating, and I don't get it. It's not even a game. It's a contest, which means nothing, and some would argue just screws up baseball players' home run swings. So this will be an exception tonight. I will not watch the home run derby. I'm going to go out on a California beach, have a glass of wine or a craft beer, have dinner with the fam, and I won't watch a second of it. So if tomorrow you're looking for an update on the home run derby, I am not the show. I will not watch it. I do not get it at all.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear this all the time. You have a coastal bias. And I'm like, then why do I love the St. Louis Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts and how they're run? I think the St. Louis, people say, what's the secret to success? There is no secret to success. Work your ass off. Keep your head down. Don't celebrate after every small win. Pay attention to details. There's no secret to success for teams, for people, for businesses. Somebody here tells me I've got to watch the home run derby. It's not a game. Don't take this personally. It's not. I don't have a problem with you watching the home run derby. I really don't. Go for it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to like. I loved watching the men's Wimbledon's final yesterday. I thought it was fantastic. I like soccer. I'm not telling you have to love soccer. I'm telling you it's growing. Don't deny it. Sometimes soccer fans get upset with me. I'm not saying soccer is going to replace the NFL or major college football or the NBA. I'm just saying I like it. You don't have to like it, but it is growing. The home run derby doesn't do a thing for me. And it's not a game, and I'm not going to talk about it, and I don't care, and I don't think it defines anything. It doesn't interest me at all. It's not an anti-baseball thing. I'll watch the All-Star game. The All-Star game's the only All-Star game worth watching. I watch it every year. I'll watch the All-Star game. I like the baseball All-Star game. I really do. I like the matchups, and it decides Game 7 of the World Series. So it matters. NBA All-Star game, Pro Bowl, hockey All-Star game. Come on, let's be honest. It's ridiculous. Baseball All-Star game is pretty good. So, Ron, why do I have to watch the home run derby?
Hey, Colin, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, I just wanted to just make a few points here. Obviously, you watch baseball. I know you have a history with Seattle and seeing just how difficult baseball is, the game itself. But
yes.
Number one, hitting a home run is hard enough, period, even when you know a ball is coming. And these guys are doing it routinely. And it's just, to me, it's almost like watching a bench press competition. I know I can't do that. And to watch these guys, I know the difficulty, and it's amazing the kind of show they put on. But number two, something that you say about baseball and elevating its stars, I think that's what the Home Run Derby does. You know, you got guys like Pujols and Ortiz and all these guys. It's what it does. It's almost instant action in a game that is very slow. So I think it grabs young viewers and all of that. I just think there's there's an all in it. I think it's more impressive if you see it in person than if you watch it on TV. Just to see how fun.
By the way, Ron, thank you for the call. I do think young people like it. It's an event. I'm not saying you can't watch it. I'm not saying it's bad. It does nothing for me. It doesn't move me at all. But if you want to watch it, go for it. Okay? It's generally, my point is that what I like, you like, and what you like, I like. Almost overwhelmingly. Even food. If I listed my 7 favorite foods, they would be 7 of America's top 10. I am very much mainstream. What I like, you like. I've lived your experience. With sports, there's only 2. If I listed my top 8 sports, they literally go 1 through 8 to the Harris poll. Because people think I hate baseball. I don't like watching it on television, but I go to baseball games, and I watch the Major League Baseball Network probably once, twice a week for 20 minutes. I have Verducci on. I don't hate baseball. I can't watch it on television. I've seen the numbers, either do you. So it's you watch whatever you want to watch. Who am I to tell you what to watch? People watch Breaking Bad. I didn't watch it. People watch Lost. I didn't watch it. I watch House of Cards. I watch some HBO. I watch American Pickers. I watch sports. I watch Smithsonian Channel, Aerial America. That's what I watch. You don't have to. Let me segue to this story. This made me laugh, and you weren't going to let this slide past me. A lot of times when I come in to do this show, you have supplied me with many of my stories. First thing I do when I get in the morning, I go to my emails to see what you're interested in. Well, it was a lot of you sending me this story because you know my history with Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton I was very critical of, and I said on the air I'm not going to do it anymore. Remember when Jerry Seinfeld was on about 6 weeks ago and we had this conversation?
Is that ever difficult for you when you say these things about people and then you meet them?
No, I one time ever. Because I call Andy Dalton, the quarterback of the Bengals, the beige water pistol. Because everybody called him the red rifle. And I said, no, he's a water pistol. And I ran into him at a hotel lobby in Los Angeles. And I honestly felt terrible. And so I went on the next day and I said, I'm never criticizing Andy Dalton. He is the Nissan Maxima of quarterbacks, but there's a place for the Nissan Maxima in America.
Right.
I felt terrible.
You really shouldn't. I mean, that's being professional. If you're not critical, you're not professional.
He is nice, and he's red-headed.
Yeah,
and he's Christian, I think, and I thought, I'm just being an awful human being. So after I met Andy Dalton, right across the street from where I'm at, in the lobby of the JW Marriott, and he was so nice, and I just said, I'm not a mean guy. I can be harsh, but mostly to people who are idiots. But I'm not a mean guy. So... and he had won a lot of games. But listen to this. I should never have made that promise because Cincinnati doesn't like him either. Andy Dalton, in his hometown Cincinnati, where he has a record of 40-23-1 as a starting quarterback. He was booed in Cincinnati at the Major League Baseball All-Star Celebrity Softball game. Despite hitting 2 home runs, Andy Dalton was booed heavily when he stepped to the plate. So, I am not going to submit to the negativity. I am optimistic. I made a promise. I'm not DeAndre Jordan. I'm a man of my word. Absolutely. I'm not going to bash Andy Dalton. Dalton stinks. Okay, but it should be noted, they booed that red-headed, solid, Christian starting quarterback in a very wholesome town, Cincinnati. I was offered him last year on this show for Super Bowl. I said, I refuse. I won't put Andy Dalton on the air. That's enough. Let's stop. He's a very good kid. But you know what it really does show about Andy Dalton is that what we demand of our quarterbacks. In this country today, you got to win playoff games because Cincinnati is starved. And that kid's 40, 23-1. He's a winner, 62%, 85 quarterback rating. But in the NFL playoffs, he's 0-4, 4 blowouts, 1 TD, 6 picks, 2 fumbles. And in the playoffs, he's been awful. And for the record, there have been great quarterbacks who eroded in the playoffs. Dan Fouts and Dan Marino were warm weather quarterbacks who didn't always play great in the playoffs. Peyton Manning, in my opinion, has always looked a little less in the playoffs. It gets cold, it gets windy, and sometimes your arm's a little weaker, you're a warm weather quarterback, and now you got to go to Green Bay in January. You got to go to Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England, Seattle. It's raining sideways. So, you know, the playoffs are more intense. You face better pass rushes. It's windier. It's colder. And Andy Dalton is a fairly weak-armed quarterback. And you get wind and you get cold and he's not very mobile and you get better defenses and you get better pass rushes. He has been unveiled in the playoffs. But he's a nice kid. I'm not going to hammer him. But it should be noted, he was booed in his hometown of Cincinnati as a 40, 23, and 1 NFL quarterback for a perennially bad football franchise. So they don't exactly love him in his hometown either. He's a hack. No, I'm not going there. I made a promise. Man of my word.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The Golden State Warriors, NBA champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Home run derby tonight. A lot of you are saying, Colin, how do you not like home runs? It's not that I don't like home runs. The home run derby doesn't do much for me. And the home run has never been the most exciting play for me in baseball. It isn't. The most exciting play for me in baseball is a play at the plate. Guy at second base, single to left field, throw from the left fielder home, bang, bang, play at the plate. That has always been, to me, the most exciting play in baseball. I think first to third, right fielder making a big throw and a hop, that's exciting. I like athleticism. I like, guy trying to take an extra base. The timing, the throw, the cutoff man, the throw home, that's always been, to me, the most exciting play. I also think, in a strange sort of way, bunting, suicide squeeze, guy running home, third baseman charging in is a great play in baseball. There's a lot of things I like. Home run's fine, but it's never – I remember the first home run I ever saw live was in 1977, live, not on TV. It was Joe Rudy, California Angels, against Diego Segui. Joe Rudy was I don't know why I think he was number 23. He jacked one to left field in the Kingdome. It was the first game ever played. And I can remember the entire lineup for Seattle because that was my home team. And Joe Rudy smoked it out. They had Nolan Ryan, Frank Tanana. Who else did they have? Gene Tennis, I think, was a catcher on that team. The Mariners, you wouldn't remember any of them. Julio Cruz, there you go. But the All-Star game tonight, I will say this. And it's a trend, and it's happening because of concussions in football, which is scaring away a lot of moms to let their kids play football. And this has been happening now for 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Baseball, and youth soccer, they're increasing. More kids are playing baseball now because a lot of parents are worn out from AAU basketball, which is skeevy, and they're not sending their kids into football like they were 25 years ago and 20 and 15 years ago. So there's a lot of good young players in baseball. Some have made the majors. Some are in the minors. This All-Star game will have plenty of them. All right, I got to tell you something I saw this morning I thought was really cool. Sports, to me, is at its best when you can take something that the athlete faces and let the fans see what it's like. Because there was a poll years ago that said 75% of American men, seriously, 3 out of 4, think the only reason they're not in pro sports is a coach had it in for me, I didn't get a lucky break. Folks, it's not close. They're in because they've got better DNA, they're bigger and stronger. I've hung around pro athletes my entire life. They're better. I'll give you a great example. Years ago, and I don't know how long the show lasted, But years ago, there was a show, and I thought it was fascinating, where they took the number one flag football team in the country. They were like San Diego, I think, is where they were from. And they were good athletes. I think they were like Division II athletes. The guys could play. And they'd practiced. And they were the best, I think it was the best 4-on-4 flag football team in the country. It's like 4 guys. So they created a television show where they took 4 NFL guys who didn't practice, who didn't know the rules, who flew into town. They had a dinner Friday night, met, and then played Saturday and taped it. And one of the guys was James Lofton. I remember that. I forget who the quarterback was. It could have been Ken O'Brien. It was James Lofton. I think the tight end was Kellen Winslow. These guys were all 7 years out of the sport. A couple of them were overweight. And they're playing a bunch of athletic guys who aren't slouches, who are real athletes in their specialty. And the NFL guys beat them. 10 years older, out of their prime, don't know the rules, don't play flag football. There's a reason you're not in pro sports. They're a million miles better. So when you can give fans a glimpse of what it's like to be great. I mean, Jordan Spieth, great. Tim Howard, the goalie, great. Tom Brady, great. Mike Trout, great. They're not a little better. They're a million miles better. So the New York Times on their website had a cool thing called What It's Like to Face a 150-mile-an-hour serve. And that's what Novak Djokovic, that's what these guys now can serve, 140, 150. That's 45 miles an hour faster than Jimmy Connors, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe. And Vince found it for me this morning, and he put it up. The difference between 112 and 148, I don't even know how they see it. You don't even have time to react. If you want to know why guys can't hit a baseball anymore, the difference between 99 and 91, it is significant. So you go look at what guys were facing yesterday in the men's Wimbledon final, Djokovic and Federer. It's remarkable how great these guys were. And my takeaway from the men's Wimbledon final yesterday between Federer and Djokovic is that these are all-timers. These are 2 of the best players out of the top 10 ever. And one of them, Djokovic, is in his prime. The other, Federer, best player ever, is slightly now out of his prime. Okay? And this is what happens when you're not taking illegal drugs. The Federer guy, who's out of his prime, can play for a while. But when you add in that Andy Murray semifinal match, and then you get to the 3rd and the 4th set of yesterday's match, the old horse dies off. He gave you everything he had for 2 sets, tiebreakers, and the last 2 sets, a lot of unforced errors. The old athlete, because he's not taking anything illegal, is not as good as the young athlete, also great in his prime. I thought it was unbelievable sports. And I know a lot, and for the record, Federer was the oldest Wimbledon finalist since the mid-'70s. Okay, so that's what sports looks like when you're not taking cattle steroids. That the greatest faces the current greatest, and he just gets worn down. And the young gun just has more in the tank. Bigger, stronger, healthier, younger, higher testosterone, got more left. The other takeaway I had is the United States women's national team winning the World Cup and the Wimbledon's final with 2 all-timers. We have had 2 great sports dramas in the last 3 weeks that have been completely captivating. And a lot of people on my Twitter account yesterday were like, it's boring, nobody cares. No, you're boring, and nobody cares about you. If you keep your eyes open in life and you allow new things in, be open-minded, it's amazing how joyous life can be. I was glued to the United States women's national team. I was glued to Federer yesterday seeking another Grand Slam. And I'll say this about tennis. Right now, between Rafi Nadal, between Federer, who's out of his prime now, and Djokovic, Brad Gilbert talked about this. You have 3 of the top 5, 6 players ever all playing right now.
It's incredible that, we have Federer at 17, Rafa at 14, and you got Joker fast moving up at 9. We never had two players playing that had 10 or more at the same time, and potentially to have 3 all at the same time is just an amazing era of men's tennis at the moment.
Stephen, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio, Stephen, and you go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm taken back a little bit here about what you're saying. I threw 79.0 miles an hour in high school. I don't care if you throw 104.3. If you're throwing and you got zazz and joy in the AM, and you're throwing steam, it don't matter. You can bring it. And I think you're ragging on people that really don't. I won the Tobin Award way back when, okay, before I got into college, into collegiate sports. And let me tell you right now, I think you're just ragging on the old. Look at Nolan Ryan.
You're rambling here. What's your point?
No, sir. Look at Nolan Ryan. He was 40 years old. He threw a no-hitter.
Dude, you're not in the bigs because you weren't good enough. That's why you're not in the bigs. A lot of guys peak in high school. A lot of guys
I don't think it really falls back on that, but I had joy. I had just the excitement and the flair and the zazz in the morning. Just throw the ball hard. Granted, fastball don't get you everywhere, but I'll tell you this, right now.
I'll tell you right now, I bet you threw so high when you were 18, 19 years old. So did a lot of guys. They're better. You weren't. They're much better. They work harder. They're gifted. They're driven. It's not luck. Guys are in the bigs because they should be in the bigs.
You're in the herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's just so funny getting that call, Uncle Rico. I could throw a football over a mountain in high school. I got into this topic where I said the New York Times had this thing on their website, what it's like to face a 150-mile-an-hour serve, and it's just incredible. And I've never envied athletes, but I respect them. And I think a lot of guys out there, because, we all want to be famous, I guess, or we all want to be successful. A lot of guys, they've done studies that 75% of guys think the only reason they're not in pro sports is because they didn't get a break in life. Folks, I've been covering pro sports for 35 years. Professional athletes, some of it's DNA, some of it's hard work. They are so much better. I'll give you an example, golf. I have friends who played college golf and were good college golfers. Like, I'm talking golf at like UCLA, University of Houston, UNLV. These are really good golf schools. And they're not close to the tour. Do you know how good you have to be top 35 in the world as a golfer? You can go out and have a shot, have a good round. Dude, it's Thursday. Can you put 3 more together? Do you understand how great a golfer you've got to be that you can draw on every club? I mean, the guys on the tour are significantly emotionally and physically better than even a good club pro. And a club pro is a scratch guy. So I tell the story years ago. This is just how great professional athletes are. And I don't envy them, but I've always respected their craft because I always looked at radio as my pro sport. I mean, the average guy calls my show 15 seconds in, he runs out of things to say. I got to talk 3 hours a day. There's no sports today. I'm talking about a home run derby. The average guy calls the show, absolutely thinks I can do what Colin can do. No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. 25 years at this stuff, fill space, go. 9 minutes, start. No interview, no call, go. Oh, really? Done? Got 11 more. So I've always thought of this as my pro sport. Just like a great accountant, a great dentist. You don't understand how great a great surgeon is. You don't understand how great a great salesperson, a great college prof. People were being great at anything is really hard. Being really good at anything is really hard. But one day I lived in Portland, and Peter Jacobson's an old golf pro, right? Like been around for a while, and won some tour events on the seniors tour. So he had this big thing that was called the Fred Meyer, and Peter's very funny, musically gifted, great storyteller, very talented guy. Now he's a broadcaster, done very well for himself, very, very funny, big personality. So he'd hold this event, he'd do stand-up, he'd play music. It was a drink social event to raise money, and it was terrific. So one day I'm doing a live shot, a local sportscaster, and behind me Peter Jacobson is hitting golf balls. He doesn't know we're watching him. And he's getting ready to go on stage in about 20 minutes, and he's just hitting golf balls. And he doesn't have any idea that we're watching him. But my camera guy, Brian Warner's taking a picture of me doing a live shot in the local news, and behind us is Peter Jacobson. And I sit there, and we're about 5 minutes before we go on the air. And he is hitting the ball about 200 yards. And he had an iron. Probably a 3 or a 4 iron, which nobody in the world except a golf pro can hit. He is driving a ball in a small hula hoop circle. And he hit about 15. And 15 were in the hula hoop, 180 yards out. He'd fade a couple, he'd draw a couple, and I turn to my photographer, Brian Warner, and I'm like, and he can't win on the tour. He's not on the leaderboard every week. It was just pow, 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 in this tiny hula hoop from 180 yards out. And I'm like, yeah, he can't get in the money most weekends. Look at him. I mean, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, Fowler. Oh, God, those guys are gifted. They're incredible. Let me read these emails. Heard email, Greg in Austin, Texas. I was a mid-major basketball talent, but I played with a couple of NBA-level guys. People don't realize the difference between college and pro. It's not even close. The 12th man on any NBA roster is the best basketball player most people will ever meet. Here, I'll give you another story. Heard email, Clint. I don't even want to go there. I'll just make fun of this guy. There's no reason to. Think about this. I know you think you're a great basketball player and you can really light it up. Steph Curry made 77 straight three-pointers. I'm sorry. 77 straight three-pointers. Well, when I was in high school, I knocked down a 30-footer to beat Walla Walla High School. Dude, come on. Here's another one. Clint, I played baseball for all my life. I've played some pro ball players through my time. To say all pro athletes are better is incorrect, specifically in baseball. So many players are handed golden tickets based on politics. Oh, Clint, stop. Oh, yeah, because really, if you hit 340 in AA, you'd be there. I mean, it's just, I can't. I'm telling you, 75% of guys think they're so lucky. That bad breaks, the coach didn't like me. Man, here's another story. You ever heard of Brian Scalabrine? He looked like Will Ferrell. Brian Scalabrine was this sort of tall, white, 6'8 guy, 6'9 guy in the NBA. Now, in the NBA, he didn't look terribly athletic. Okay, he didn't look terribly athletic. But he played, it was on YouTube about a year or two ago, and he was like 12th man, garbage time NBA guy. He went to a park and played against guys who were good players. I mean, these guys were looked like they played like Division II college, Division I. He was jamming, two-hand jam over guys. Come on. You just don't understand. I tell my wife this all the time. Steve Nash looks tiny. Steve Nash is taller than me, and I'm 6'2". The length of Amari Stoudemire, DeAndre Jordan, the size, the length, the worth ethic, the nutrition, the passion. Come on. I should just take calls today on that. Guy who thinks he could have made the bigs.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Chad, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Chad, go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. Hey, Colin, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to talk tennis because you just brought up a great point about three guys almost at 10 all at the same time. And it is exciting to watch as long as you like watching great tennis. But I was lucky enough to grow up in the mid to late 80s and early 90s when we had Courier and Chang and Agassi and Cypress, and they were all American. So as a patriot, you could watch, and no matter who you were cheering for, it was like exciting, and everybody got on its back, and it was kind of a big movement. And that's still the way we treat Serena, because she's dominating and she's American. But even though we respect the games of these three guys, I just don't think we're as excited about it, or we root as hard, or we follow it as hard.
Well, I think all countries root for their fellow countrymen. I think if you watch Olympic coverage, we root for Americans first, and then we like Canadians. There's a proximity thing when it comes to athletes. We tend to we root for our country. There's no question. And I don't think that's bad. I think that's just I think Italians root for Italians and Greeks root for Greeks and Americans root for Americans. The left-leaners will tell you that's outrageous and it's ugly. No, it's not. Every country feels good about itself, hopefully does, and pulls for its athletes. Yes, I think if we had 2 or 3, if Roger Federer was from Kansas City and Djokovic was from Rochester, Minnesota, I think it could help American. It wouldn't make the tennis better. But the fact that Pete Sampras and Jim Courier and John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors and Andre Agassi were domestic athletes, yes. But I think in tennis and certain sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, they're much more global. The world's more global. Think about our colleges. I'm in Los Angeles, UCLA. You can be an American student, have a 4-point, have no shot to get into UCLA. Because of its proximity to the Pacific Rim, UCLA has a very diverse student body, and that's the reality of this country. That most of you that are as old as I am, 50 years old, couldn't even get into the college that you graduated from today. The standards have gone up. It's more international. There's more students getting in globally that have raised all the standards, and that's the reality of it. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, it depends on where you sit in life. Yeah, I do think if Roger Federer was from Missouri, Americans would be more galvanized and watch it. Absolutely. I don't think that's bad. I think that's human. But I don't think you can deny it was incredible tennis.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the quartage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
We were talking, we've spent a couple of hours kind of bouncing around on a variety of topics, which is the time of the year to do it. We're in July and August. It's pretty slow right now. I don't mind these times. They're fun. Talk about a lot of things I don't normally talk about, which is great. Because once you get into the NFL season and the college football season, you know, you got to play the hits. I'm a grocery store. That's the eggs. That's the milk. That's the bread. That's the butter. That's what people want to listen to. So this time of the year is fun, and we talk about different stuff. And we were talking about guys, how much better the average pro is than the average, you know, guy that thinks he should be a pro. That's not just sports. You can go landscaping. You can go dentistry. You find somebody who is a concert pianist. They are so much better than the average drummer or pianist. When people, I love people who are great at something. I've always liked people who have just put their 10,000 hours into anything. It doesn't matter. I've had people that have worked around my house. Like I've said this. One of the most amazing skills to me, and maybe it's not a skill, I don't know how to describe it, but you will always have a job if you are a great carpenter. And over the course of the last 25 years, sometimes there'd be a fix-it project at my house or a cupboard thing, and you'll watch guys come in for 3 or 4 days, and I don't have those skills. And they'll pull down a cupboard, put up cupboards, and you're like, how the hell did you do that? And it looks just like the magazine. If you think about building a house and the quality and the craftsmanship to build a really nice house, it's remarkable. I mean, you'll watch these shows where they go into like a meth house, and like 6 weeks later, you're looking at this house and it's stylish and it's modern and it's hip, and you're like, that is a talent to be able to envision it before it exists. So it's not just pro athletes separating. The top 1% skill of any skill, doing anything, are remarkable. The average pro poker player, the average world-class surgeon, these people should be paid whatever they can make because they have separated from society, and good for them. Why put a ceiling on the best pilot? Why put a ceiling on the best teacher? The great ones are rare and deserve whatever they can make in the market. Speaking of great, Jordan Spieth is remarkable, and he's young. And yesterday he won the John Deere Classic. Now he heads to the Open. Yes, he's great. Yes, he's handsome. Yes, he's cordial. Yes, he's American. Yes, he looks like the son of every 60-year-old golfer that ever played. Wish he had. But I said to the guys this morning, I'm not sure he has an it quality, and golf needs an it guy, not a great golfer. If they get both simultaneously like Tiger, fantastic. But Rory and Dustin Johnson have a little more of an it quality than Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth right now is the better golfer. And let's be honest, golf, and this is fact, has never been that popular in America. Nobody made any money on the tour until Tiger Woods arrived. Look at Arnold Palmer's career earnings. Golf has always been a very high-end, mostly white, played by wealthy people. 3 million people joined a year and 3 million people quit. Why? It's hard. It's expensive. You've got to put a lot of time into it. You can't be like casually interested and good in golf. You can be casually interested and go out at the Y, break a sweat, and hit a jumper. You don't play golf, you don't commit to it, you stink and it's frustrating. So 3 million people have the dream of playing, 3 million people quit a year. And that's the reality of golf. It's always been a niche sport. Tiger, Jack in his prime, broadened that. And it's very funny because I think tennis needs this, golf needs this. NASCAR had it with Dale Earnhardt Sr. When Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed, there was a hole in the sport. He brought in casual people. I'm interested to watch Jordan Spieth. I'm pulling for him because, frankly, I root for dynasties. I root for him in tennis. I root for him in basketball. I root for him in football. I think they're more captivating. I'm not sure, even if Jordan Spieth won the next 3 majors, I'm not sure he's unique enough to pop and bring in my sister and bring in my wife who doesn't care about golf. You know, I'm not sure. Say what you want about Tiger Woods. He was just unique. He didn't look like a golfer. He threw clubs. He hit shots nobody'd ever hit. Nobody's denying. And I get some emails. What does it say about America? That Jordan Spieth is wonderful and can't captivate America. It says that golf has always been a sport that golfers love, but has rarely ignited with the public. And the times it has, golfers usually had an it quality. John Daly was a mess. He connected. He popped. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, they popped. Jordan Spieth is great. Will he pop? Golf desperately needs the pop. I continue to assert that Dustin Johnson, with Wayne Gretzky's daughter in tow, and with former issues off the course, has the most it. Big, strong, powerful, internet sensation, been in trouble, smoke show girlfriend, that pops. Millennials connect. He's young. He's different. He's unique. He gets in trouble. That, to me, pops. And he's not liked by everybody. He's not liked by everybody. Who doesn't like Jordan Spieth? He is the nicest kid in the world. And he's great. The other story I saw, this is an internet report, so take it for what it's worth. It is loosely sourced. But Jimbo Fisher, Florida State football coach, reportedly banned his players from bars amid arrests and controversy. Jimbo Fisher isn't my favorite coach, but can I defend him for just 1 second here? And the action by the player was despicable. But ask yourself this. These are the last 5 or 6 head football coaches at Florida and Florida State. Urban Meyer, Will Muschamp, Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Bowden, Ron Zook. What do they all have in common? Double-digit players in trouble off the field. Maybe the state of Florida public schools perhaps maybe don't hand you ideal situations. Maybe there's not much to do in these rural Florida campuses. But USC and UCLA have more bars, more options, and more potential trouble, have far fewer issues. There's stuff to do in L.A. When you get young people plus boring, you get in trouble. That's why the Indiana Pacers and the Indianapolis Colts have had all sorts of athletes in trouble. The Jets aren't. The Saints aren't. The Texans aren't. Those cities have far more bars, opportunities. landmines. I mean, we can blame all these coaches in Florida, but Urban Meyer, he must have had 30 guys get arrested. Will Muschamp, Zook, Fisher, Bowden. Maybe it's not all the coach. Maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's what perhaps public schools hand you in that state. Maybe it's in small towns where young men, more prone to crime, commit more of it because they're bored out of their minds. I'm not saying Jimbo Fisher gets completely off. Bobby Bowden, Jimbo Fisher, Zook, Muschamp, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer didn't have as many problems in Bowling Green, didn't have as many problems in Salt Lake City. You ever think Florida State, rural, quiet, not much to do? Maybe it's not all the coach's fault. I look in pro sports. How many Pacers were in trouble? How many Colts get in trouble? There's nothing to do in Indianapolis. And the people are nice. There's nothing to do there. New Orleans, it's a bar on every corner. Saints don't have those off-field problems to the degree. USC, UCLA, about a player a year get in trouble. Florida's got 20, regardless of coach. Maybe it's the area. Maybe it's not always the coach's fault. I'm spitballing here, but how many coaches in Florida can get blamed for all their players? You know, I mean, it doesn't matter who the coach is. You could bring in Joel Osteen to coach Florida. I mean, you could have America's inspirational leader. I don't think it matters. I really don't.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Check out Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby coverage again. It's 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN Radio. It's the one thing I will not watch that America loves. I will not watch the Home Run Derby, and I will not talk about it tomorrow unless something spectacular happens. All right, it's the SEC Media Days, which is just a barnyard musical, and it's amazing, and it shows you why the South loves its college football. It is, once again, the deepest conference in college football. It's not very good at quarterback last couple of years, but I've been saying this, that when Pete Carroll dominated the Pac-12, when Mac Brown dominated the Big 12, when Urban Meyer for at least one more year dominates the Big 10, and when Nick Saban dominated early the SEC, they all have one thing in common. Other traditional powers in their conference are rebuilding or reloading. They fire a coach, they get a new one. I think the SEC's got too many good coaches. I saw it last year. Arkansas, Tennessee are about ready to explode. I think it's impossible to go undefeated and virtually impossible to only have one loss. Paul Finebaum knows the conference better than I do. I look at Alabama's schedule, Paul. I've never seen a college schedule even close to that difficult. They don't have a starting quarterback. How good are they?
I think they're really good, Colin, but I agree. They have Auburn's schedule from last year, which was a team that lost 5 games, but with a better schedule, probably would have been at least on the cusp of the college football playoff. I do think there's maybe a little too much schadenfreude going on around the country, and I'll throw you in there as well. Saying goodbye and kissing off the SEC. I know you said it's deep. It is very deep, and they have tremendous coaches, and they have great players, Colin. Unfortunately, they have to play each other, as you said, and I think that could very well be the undoing. Last year, the question was, can the SEC get 2? This year, can the SEC get anyone in the college football playoff?
What is it the last several years? We have Cam Newton, Matt Stafford, Jay Cutler, but of the 32 NFL teams, there's not a lot of starting SEC quarterbacks not named Manning. Over the last couple of years, I don't think the quality of quarterback play has been particularly good, comparable to other quarterbacks. Is it cyclical? Why? Like last year, I thought the quarterback play was poor.
Well, until recently, you didn't have to have a great quarterback because this was a defensive league. We all know it's changed. Anyone who listens to you has heard you talk about it, and anyone else for that matter. So I do think that's a factor, and I think Cam was really the last great quarterback. There have been some good ones. Certainly, we've seen them in spots, but I'm not really sure there's an explanation for that. And I think the biggest and most inexplicable explanation is how has Nick Saban missed so many times? Because, here's a guy that just loads them up on national signing day, 5-star recruits, as he did again most recently in February, but he still can't find a starter.
Yeah. I think Arkansas is the best team nobody's talking about. I think LSU's a little overrated. Would you have a dark horse in the SEC this year?
I I would probably say Arkansas because I think Arkansas and maybe A&M could be a little sneaky. No one's giving Kevin Sumlin much credit. Colin, I know we've had this conversation when we thought he was going to USC a couple of years ago. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country that no one mentions his name anymore. I think Tennessee is getting way too much buzz. I agree with you on LSU. Ole Miss, again, questions at quarterback, but a nasty defense, and I think that could help them a great deal down the stretch.
For somebody that's never been to SEC Media Day, and I've told my audience for years, you just have to understand, the South was the last to get pro sports. They're deeply embedded in college sports and specifically football. What is it like? What will it be like the next 5 days? Take my audience there, Paul.
Well, Colin, first of all, it's the media taking pictures of each other. So, I mean, you start with that. The media saying college football season is here, which we all know it's not. As someone who's covered this for 25 years, I think it's overrated. The day that everyone waits for is the day that Saban shows up. He walks through the lobby. He knows the routine. He knows which escalator to go up to, where every local television station in Alabama is there. And there are about 1,500 to 2,000 fans who will never get closer to Nick Saban. That's really what it's all about. I walked in here from the airport about 2 hours ago, and there were 15 people outside looking for Gus Malzahn.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have quite the same buzz. Where does Phyllis and the crowd of regulars on your show go in the off season? Well, where do they go?
Well, Phyllis, in all fairness, and I know that this is not a good answer. She's been dealing with a lot of health issues, and you have not made that any easier, Colin, by continuing to poke at her. Her husband's been very sick. He's been battling cancer. But she called in the other day, and she's ready. She goes in hibernation. And, frankly, a lot of Alabama fans have been in hibernation since January 1st when Ohio State ran over Alabama in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Well, we wish Phyllis the best. We'll take it easy on Phillip.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Colin. I mean, I've been in Birmingham for 20 minutes, and I've heard 1,400 people take shots at you. But that's the new normal. I wish you were here, frankly.
Yeah,
I don't know if you'd live to see Thursday, but
I don't. I'm glad I'm not there, actually. Paul Finebaum, SEC Network. Good talking to you, bud.
You bet, Colin.
Yeah, they're crazy about it, man. I mean, when Nick Saban landed on that private plane on that tarmac, people ran out on the tarmac. They didn't do that for Jim Mora at UCLA. It is, and that's not a shot at Jim Mora. They're just crazy, loony, in love with their football.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.